Good afternoon. It's time to get our meeting rocking and rolling, so welcome to ASI's 24th annual meeting. This is the 148th year since the formation of the National Wool Growers Association. That's a long time. We've had a lot of opportunity this week to work with leadership from across all the state and national organizations, producers, feeders, and affiliated businesses. We're having some truly wonderful discussions that are important for our industry to have. Next, we're going to start off. I am very pleased to introduce USDA Undersecretary Edward Avalos to the ASI Board of Directors. You will no doubt recognize Secretary Avalos and probably have had a chance to visit with him personally this week. He spent last evening with us over at Pat O'Brien's. Edward Avalos has participated in the last 4 sheep industry conventions, and he's a long-standing member of the New Mexico wool growers. How fortunate we are to have somebody who truly understands our industry in the position that he's in. Mr. Avalos, he oversees some of the most critical programs that are important to the U.S. sheep industry. Those include APHIS, Wildlife Services, the Agricultural Marketing Service, and market reporting and predator control. You know, during these tough budget times, we've looked to the Undersecretary to help shepherd some of the programs that are the most important to us through some of the processes. And I want to tell you, when our market was in a free fall this past year, it was Undersecretary Avalos who was so key to getting us the $12 million lamb buy that really helped stop the slide in our market. So with great pleasure, I bring Secretary Avalos up here to visit with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. And once again, thank you so much for the invitation to speak here at the convention, for an opportunity to get out of Washington, D.C. and come hang out with you guys. But seriously, it always is an honor and a privilege to address the sheep and goat industry of this country. It's always nice to see so many familiar faces and see so many friends in one room. But before I get into my 42-page speech, I want to recognize some of my coworkers at USDA that are here at the convention, and they also work very hard to support your industry. I want to start out with Mr. Al Amanza. He's our administrator for the Food Safety Inspection Service, and Al's back there in the back. Then from AMS, Agricultural Marketing Service, of course, we have Dr. Craig Morris, Dr. Lawrence Yates, and Mr. Market News, Mike Lynch. In the Wildlife Services bunch, we got Dr. Larry Clark, and one of my favorite guys at Wildlife Service, Charlie Brown. And an old co-worker at the New Mexico Department of Agriculture from a long time ago. Where's old Bolton Chuck? Oh, there, Mike Bolton Chuck. You know, when I'm talking about Mike Bolton Chuck, he's one of the very first guys that taught me a little bit about wildlife services when he was a state employee in New Mexico. In fact, it was Mike Bodenchuk and Steve. There's another guy from New Mexico, Tommy Runyon. They're the ones that taught me that wildlife services was part of the USDA, and that was really my first introduction to USDA. So thank you, Mike. I don't know if we have any other USDA people here, but if I missed you, I didn't do it on purpose. I wanted to recognize another individual, because they're in Washington, D.C., among the political appointees. We have a young man named Brandon Willis, and he's in the sheep business. His family's in the sheep business, and when I see him in the hall, I always call him out as Borreguero. But his dad is here, Clark. If you're out there, if you stand up, just want to recognize you. And I can't forget about my home state. Got to recognize some of the industry from New Mexico, and want to start out with the famous Mike Korn. And then I'll just go quickly. So we have Russell Leonard, Michelle Frost, Antonio Manzanares, and of course, my brother, Steve Lewis, his beautiful wife, Stacy, 2 daughters, Samantha and Keeper. I don't know her name. We just call her Keeper. You know, I've been the Undersecretary there at USDA now for almost 3.5 years. And some of you guys might remember when I first spoke to the group in Nashville, I talked about how I grew up in rural America and how I'd been in agriculture in one form or another all my life. I talked about Washington, D.C., not only being our nation's capital, but being a place where there was discussion and dialogue, a place where there was negotiation and compromise, and a place where decisions were made. Decisions that impact on you, your livelihood, that impact on your ranch, your community, that impact on our country, and that impact on the world. You know, I also said that as the Undersecretary, I have a lot of dockets or documents that come through my desk. Proposed rules, final rules, ideas, different changes, and I have to make a decision on those. And ever since the very first day I walked into my office at USDA, I've always looked at everything from the perspective of the countryside to Washington, D.C., never from Washington, D.C. to the countryside. And my staff, they already know. I always ask, okay, if we pass this final rule, what's that going to do to the producer? What's that going to do to the feeder? What's it going to do to the processor? You know, I want to know how it's going to impact on our real communities. So anyway, hasn't changed. I've got to make decisions every day, and I always look at it. And I say, you know, if we do this, what's that going to do to Mike Korn in Roswell, New Mexico? What's it going to do to Mr. Camino over in Wyoming? What's it going to do to my good friend Glenn Fisher over in San Angelo? To me, it's very, very important. And then I don't only look at regions. You know, I also want to know what's going to happen to Mr. Miller over in Maine. So anyway, a lot of times they're difficult decisions, they're tough challenges, but I take a lot of pride in sitting up there as a public servant. Actually, I take a lot of pride in the title of public servant because that's what I am. I'm there to work for you. I'm there to create opportunities for rural America, for the sheep industry to be successful, and I really take that serious. You know, today we look at ourselves and we ask Mike, where's Mike Korn? Okay, now I can keep an eye on you. But we ask ourselves, ¿qué pasó? What happened? Prices were fantastic, but now they're way below half of what they were last year. Then on top of these depressed prices, we throw in the drought and the high cost of feed. We have a difficult situation. There's no doubt about it. So anyway, I just wanted to emphasize that we know that at USDA. Secretary Vilsack knows that at USDA. And we've worked with Peter and ASI to assist in several ways. And of course, one was the Section 32 bonus buy, $12 million. We took almost 3 million pounds of lamb and mutton off the market. And I think it helped. I think it helped stabilize the market somewhat. Maybe we still will have more reaction to this as we go down the road, but I just think it was a really good start. Also, we worked with ASI and Peter to adjust the livestock risk program for lamb, allow it to function as it was intended to function. allow it to work as an effective risk management tool for our producers. At GIPSA, the Packers and Stockyards Administration, we are conducting a full investigation of this dramatic drop in price to make sure that there were no violations to the Packers and Stockyards Act. And this, we're doing at the request of Congress. And we're also working with ASI to provide timely market information. I really am a firm believer. I strongly support and acknowledge the importance of price discovery and transparency. I support accurate and unbiased market information for producers and businesses. You know, the U.S. lamb market is impacted by imports from Australia, New Zealand, and other competitors. And I feel that they need to be transparent, and they also need to provide price data. If they have access to our price data, we should have access to their price data. At the request of ASI, the Livestock Market Information Center conducted analysis of the livestock reporting, mandatory reporting. Craig, I don't know if the recommendations are already been presented, but if they haven't, and they will later in the convention, Dr. Morris and Mike Lynch and I, we look forward to looking at them and see how we can implement some of those recommendations and solutions. You know, I want to talk a little bit about lamb quality. The lamb industry has a lot of challenges, but one challenge you don't have is the tenderness of your product. You know, every once in a while, I'll cook some lamb chops on the grill, or I'll get a leg of lamb and I cook it on the grill, and I never, ever worry about it being tender. Just never comes to mind. Where in other proteins like steak, you don't always get a tender steak. And so I was talking to Dr. Morris, and he told me that AMS they had recently unveiled a USDA certified tender program for beef, and they were talking to Peter and ASI and looking to implement a USDA tender program for lamb. And he told me this was exciting to me because, one, it's a great way to market your lamb, and two, he said that probably 99% of the lamb would qualify. That's amazing, and that's really it recognizes the quality of your product, and I just wanted to mention that. Another important component for marketing lamb is a USDA grading system. You know, a lot of these programs we have at USDA we take for granted, but you know, there's always new ideas, there's always new technology. The instrument grading technology is really, I think it's something that's going to go places. I realize there's some problems with the cost, but we're open to have discussion and see how we can address this, because I know this is really important to the industry. You know, the last couple of days, I've had a lot of people corner me and talk to me about the increase in the beef checkoff. Even Madam President cornered me yesterday. No, but anyway, first of all, I want to say that I am a very strong supporter of the checkoff programs. I feel that it's money well spent. Does so much good for the industry. And, but you know, I also, sitting there as the Undersecretary, as I mentioned earlier, I really care about how any regulation, any rule, in this case it would be a rule, how does that impact the producer? What does that do to the packer? What does that do to the feeder? So I have to look at that. And when you increase the assessment, whether it be a little bit or a lot, it's still an increase. And you know, I don't have skin in the game because it's not my money. It's your money. And I got to be able to look at Mr. Fisher in the face. I got to be able to look at you in the face and say, you know what, I made this decision because I really feel it's going to be good for your industry, even though you're going to have to pay. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to pay. So anyway, to get to the end, I appreciate all the comments. There's some for, some against. I know that of the the official comments came in, over 70% were in favor. I've only had this issue on my desk for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, but I'm going to continue to carry on this discussion with my AMS crew, look at the comments, take in consideration all the suggestions that I got the last 2 days before going forward with a recommendation to the Secretary. So I can tell you that much, because I know how important this is. You know, I know we got Dr. Clark and Bodenchuk sitting back there probably thinking that I'm giving all the podium time to AMS and GIPSA. But you know, you guys know I will never forget about wildlife services. And I just want to talk a little bit about wildlife services. You know, everyone likes wildlife. Okay, come on. Everybody likes wildlife, but we all know that our sheep have to be protected from predators, from coyotes, bobcats, wolves, feral hogs. They're a problem. And I'll never forget, Mr. Fisher's here up front, so I'm going to pick on you a little bit. I'm not picking on you. Remember when we were in Washington, D.C., and we went to see Secretary Vilsack, and we were talking about the sheep center, and we were going to convert it from rural development to the Agricultural Marketing Service. And Mr. Fisher informed the Secretary about the predator losses and it being as high as 50% of your lamb crop. And Secretary Vilsack could not believe that. Remember that, Glenn? He could not believe that. He said, well, how do you stay in business? He goes, that's the point. That's why we're telling you this. But anyway, I just want to let you know that the Secretary does understand now. And he has supported me and allowed me to support wildlife services in the industry to have an effective predator management program. Under the guidance of Dr. Clark, we've got some cutting-edge research being done up in Colorado, looking for new methods to control or address predators, lethal and non-lethal. And we're looking at other options such as the feral swine toxicant. We're looking at options like the working dogs. In fact, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. I really like the idea of bringing in these new breeds that can compete against the wolf. And I just think it has a lot of potential to protect our industry from predators. As you all know, we just recently filed the final rule on animal disease traceability. I want to commend the sheep industry for your work to implement traceability for sheep through the scabies eradication program. In fact, it was so well done that we just put it verbatim into our final traceability rule, and this will serve as traceability for sheep. So thank you so much. You guys did a great job on that. You know, I want to touch briefly on the Farm Bill, or maybe I should say the failure of Congress to pass a Farm Bill. Here we go through record drought, but Congress, for some reason, couldn't pass a 5-year Farm Bill. Instead, they had a Farm Bill extension. They had no disaster assistance. There was no help for livestock producers, no help for dairy producers. I'm really disappointed that you and the rest of agriculture, especially the livestock industry, you can't plan for the future. You have this uncertainty in front of you, and to make long-term decisions is difficult when you don't know what the Farm Bill is going to do. You don't know what the government's going to do. So I sympathize with you. I don't think it was right that Congress not pass a Farm Bill. I'm getting word that they're looking at on the Senate side right now to move the Farm Bill forward. So hopefully they will move quickly. But when they move forward with the Farm Bill, they really need to not only have a strong safety net for crop producers, but also for livestock and dairy producers. We need a Farm Bill that provides commitment to credit, particularly to beginning farmers and ranchers. We need a Farm Bill that maintains our commitment to trade, Peter. We need a Farm Bill that supports local and regional food systems, which I think would be very important to this industry in developing non-traditional markets for lamb and cabrito. We need a farm bill that has strong support for research. Ladies and gentlemen, we really need a farm bill in 2013. But you know, we need to ask ourselves, given the importance of rural America, the fact that rural America feeds the nation and feeds the world, it's rural America that's responsible for millions of jobs. 1 out of 12 jobs in this country is directly tied to agriculture from this country. So we need to ask the question, we need to ask ourselves, given this tremendous contribution that rural American agriculture has to our nation's economy, why is it so difficult to get a five-year farm bill through Congress? Why is it so hard? Where's Fran? Fran can answer. Why is it so hard, Fran? But, you know, and I've put a lot of thought into this. And I really think, whether we want to hear it or not, I think we have to address, I think we have to acknowledge that the political clout that rural America once had isn't there anymore. The population, demographics in this country have really changed, and they're going to continue to change. In the last census, 1,130 rural counties, over 50% of the rural counties in this country dropped in population. Today, only 16% of our country's population lives in rural America. 16%, that's the lowest in the history of this country. Fewer people ultimately reflects fewer votes in Congress and fewer people that understand agriculture. So what does this mean? I think what this means is that we as an industry, we have to look at ways in which rural America can expand our influence. We have to look for opportunities to convey the agricultural message in a non-conventional way. We have to be creative, we have to be innovative, and we have to go beyond just talking to ourselves. But you know, having said that, I want to highlight that today, there still exists unlimited opportunities in rural America. It really does. But today, I guess the message I want to give is that we have an opportunity to embrace a proactive message that highlights what we have to offer the world, what we have to offer the rest of the country. We have an opportunity to build bridges with untapped resources. We have an opportunity to embrace diversity, to build strategic alliances. We have an opportunity to engage in constructive dialogue with groups or entities that traditionally maybe we didn't get along with, maybe we had difficulties with. We have an opportunity to pursue new partnerships and to tell the story of a modern, innovative, rural America.
In your presentation, you talked about opportunities. And one of the opportunities we think is out there is in trade. And we're kind of not being able to participate in those trade agreements that are in China, Japan, and those kinds of countries. What does it take for us to get involved in those kind of agreements and be a part of that agreement?
I think you're absolutely right. The sheep industry, the lamb industry, they do need to be involved, because I understand that having another market, a foreign market for your product is very, very important, because I know that the American lamb is superior to the imports that come into this country. And I know that there's a demand for our product in foreign markets. But to answer your question, I don't know exactly what we can do to have you included in the negotiations to open up markets for your product. But I can tell you that I can definitely coordinate with Undersecretary SKUs, the people from FAS, and coordinate with Peter and his folks and look into that, see what we can do, because I know it's important.
My follow-up to that is the fact that we've been working for years trying to get a scrapie-free category here in the United States. We're so ding-dong close, and we've been trying to get there, and we're very, very close. Is that a holdup in getting us into those trade agreements?
I don't know. I want to say it probably isn't, but when I say that, I'm probably wrong. So I don't know. I'll have to get together with the FAS people and with Dr. Clifford and the veterinary services people. But I can tell you, I can definitely push. Now that you brought it out in public that this is a priority for the industry, I will definitely push because that's my job.
Undersecretary, one question for you, kind of coming from California. As you know, this last year, SAC-B particularly did a 3-part series in regards to wildlife services, very, very critical. What type of response or what type of information can we get from USDA to help us as an industry to protect that program and to help you guys? But at the same time, something is definitely needed from your department to help us carry that message forward and to keep and help, continue to protect that program.
I'm very aware of the Sacramento Bee and some of the things that they published that were very incorrect. I understand that. And I can assure you that the wildlife services people were ready to respond. but what we did, working through our office communications, we tried to address it maybe more diplomatically, maybe not wanting to reinforce the negative, but I can't remember our official response, but I can get you more information on what we do, and they would discredit what the Sacramento Bee was saying because it was incorrect information. Yeah. So anyway, let me do this. Let me reach back to Bill Clay and to our Office of Communications and see if we can help you and see if we can even do more from the USDA level.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there another question, comment? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And I just want to follow up on that export market issue. Is that one of the frustrations that we have in the lamb industry is that those markets, particularly to Japan, was closed in 2003 for a BSE issue, which is something that we don't have. And consequently, those beef markets have reopened. So you would understand the frustration of the lamb industry, why that isn't moving forward and why we think it needs to move forward and why it should be a priority.
Right. I just want to emphasize, I had a conversation on this topic last night, and I'm going to see what we can do. And I know that I think Al Mansa stepped out, but he was in on the discussion, and we're going to see what we can do because I know the importance. I got it. Okay. Once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation. It's always an honor to be here. Thank you.